Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday. So good to have you here with me today. I have been thinking a lot about what happened down in the Oklahoma Panhandle. I know you have as well, and we've been breaking a lot of news on it. And every day there seems to be sort of a new court document with a new revelation. Just yesterday, if you were watching, we did a full hour-long special. Turns out Grandma Tiffany may have confessed. Some question about it, but it sure does look like she said something to the police on a recorded statement that indicated she had responsibility for the deaths of those two innocent moms. Was it a confession or was it something she said that was so dang stupid that that's how they worded the affidavit? Whatever it is, there's just heaps and heaps and heaps of really bad evidence against her and her boyfriend and her two friends, the Twombleys. Heaps. And in the business, when we get a quadrant like this and we've got the info that we have, we call them bad facts. And in this particular case, it's a quadrumvirate of really, really bad facts. So I told you off the top of the show, I just keep thinking and thinking about this. And now I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of a defense attorney. If you're a defense attorney, what are you going to do with this steaming pile of garbage that is their case? And it turns out there may be some things. Hard to believe because we've been so focused on the horrors and the tragedy and the revelations. And now here we are digesting. And have I got some stories for you tonight? Defense stories. How each of these would be defended given the horrible facts against them. That's all coming. Do not miss it, because you might learn a thing or two like I did talking to these defense attorneys who said, oh, I would take this case. I could take this case. Okay, also, who killed Noah Presgrove? Who? Someone did it. Somebody did it. I don't know if it was premeditated. I don't know if it was heat of passion. I don't know if it was an accident. I don't even know if the killer knows that he or she left Noah Presgrove, this beautiful, recent high school graduate, headed to join the military. I don't even think they know that they did it. But whoever they were, they left them on the side of a highway, naked but for two shoes. One of those shoes was not his. One of those shoes was. The mystery is now 7 months old, and his family has been told very little. But what they have told us just recently is information that's never before been made public. And tonight, the secret stories that his body will tell us, that his body will tell forensic scientists, that his body will tell investigators, and the secret clues to finding the killer that his body may hold. You're going to hear all of that coming up as well. And then also, this video came flying through my feed, stopped me in my tracks, because I kept thinking, but for the grace of any of us, there's a woman trying to just ring a doorbell, being pulled away, literally on a doorbell cam. And by the way, she doesn't know who lives there. She was just desperate for help. She came to ring the doorbell. Help me, help me. And look who comes up. A kidnapper ripped her from the door as she's screaming for her life. We are learning a lot more about this. And when we hit this particular segment for you, you're going to learn a little bit more about who she was, who he was, and what that doorbell cam told the investigators and where they are both tonight. All that coming in just a few moments. But I want to begin tonight with a message to Grandma Tiffany Adams and her 3 alleged co-conspirators in Oklahoma. Hello. Don't know if you have television in the Panhandle Jail where you are in Texas County, but if you would like to spare the taxpayers the cost of at least 1 and maybe 4 capital murder trials, maybe death penalty, just go ahead and plead guilty. You will get no argument from me, and that's the end of my message. So far, at least, I don't think that's what's happening. The wheels of justice are turning, and another hearing is scheduled. Next one's coming May 15th. Mark it down. It's 22 days from now. Set aside 9 a.m. At the first hearing for these 4, which is a week ago, a judge went ahead and just entered not guilty 4 times for each one of these defendants. Grandma Tiffany Adams, her boyfriend Tad Cullum, and Cora and Cole Twombly. A couple that's not able to, shall we say, see each other much right now, even though they're in the same building. Since that hearing, the DA has made it known that Grandma Tiffany, and I quote, did provide a recorded statement to law enforcement indicating her responsibility for the death of the deceased. We don't actually have the official Grandma Tiffany alleged statement itself. I wish I did. I really want to see it. So because we don't have that, we just have what the affiant said about it. We don't know the context. We don't know the circumstances. But if it is what it sounds like, it is going to be an uphill battle to explain it to a jury. Alongside that whole boatload of really bad evidence, the bad facts against her and her 3 co-defendants. Like that detail we reported here exclusively last night. Fingernail-shaped scratches on Tad Cullum's face. You got to kind of squint, but it's over there on the right side. It would be his left side, right cheek. These are scratches that he allegedly tried to hide by growing out his beard, according to our source. And then, of course, there's the shocking timeline that was provided by the Twombly's 16-year-old daughter, alleging that her own parents helped their friends, Tad and Tiffany, ambush those 2 poor mothers and then dispose of their bodies in a cow pasture after they murdered them, according to the daughter. But if I have learned nothing else in my decades of covering murder trials, it is that what affidavits have on them, what's written by the cops and the prosecutors, well, that doesn't always equal a conviction. Sometimes even a confession can be explained away or just kept away from a jury. Might never see the light of day. But is that something that could happen here? Could the Gang of 4 come out of this mess with their lives? Could the Gang of 4 even beat the rap altogether and walk away with their freedom? Before you laugh, before you say, Ashleigh, you're nuts. Well, I was thinking about it a lot. So I asked 2 of my favorite legal minds, Sarah Azari. She is a criminal defense attorney and legal analyst for NewsNation. And Mark Garagos, who's a trial attorney and the co-host of the Reasonable Doubt podcast with Adam Carolla. He's seen a trial or 2 in his time. Welcome to both of you. So as I was weighing all these bad facts for all 4 of these defendants, I thought I need to get someone to get me off the ledge, because to me it looks like just a slam dunk period. So let's start here, and we're going to start with Grandma Tiffany. And Sarah, I'm going to begin with you. I'm going to list off just again the whole ugly nature of what the police have that we know of. They've got this so-called maybe confession, maybe not, but something that leads them to believe she's responsible for the deaths. The nasty custody dispute that she was in. The fact that the victims were on their way to see her. She canceled it, but then told police she didn't. She gave the police inaccurate information about that gravesite. She bought 3 burner phones. She bought 5 tasers after searching for them all, and searched taser pain level, gun shops, prepaid cell phones, and how to get someone out of their house. So with that, counselor, go ahead with your opening statement to this jury.
I mean, did you just encourage her to plead guilty already, Ashleigh? She is presumed
Save her
innocent.
Life.
She
if
is
that's
presumed
the fact,
innocent.
Sarah, honestly,
Yeah.
If I were you defending her, I'd look at her and say, that is an Everest of bad facts, and if you want to save your life, you might do it this way.
It is. It is, and I think that what the prosecution is calling a confession, I mean, Mark can tell you this too, the client sneezes and they go, oh, he confessed. I mean, here under Oklahoma law, they have to have proof of guilt, meaning they have to have substantial evidence that even though these defendants are presumed innocent, that there's a lot of circumstantial evidence pointing to guilt in order to get no bail hold on them. And so it's just the state's way of strengthening their position in that regard. Because trust me, I mean, a confession is an unequivocal admission of guilt. There is nothing vague and cryptic about it, like this, indication of responsibility. What the hell is that? And if it is a confession, I can't tell how many times I've thought I've had a confession, but there are, they're not voluntary. I mean, that's one way to keep it out. And
sometimes
they're explainable, like you said. So, yeah, Sometimes, and we don't know what exactly she said. Like I said last night, I want to hear the audio. I don't want the transcript. I want the audio, and then we can talk about how that's explainable in an innocuous way. You mentioned the custody battle. That is bad. I mean, Mark can be the true believer tonight, but that is very bad. There's 5 years of a custody battle. It is motive, even though the prosecution doesn't need motive. This is motive. She's tried one earlier time. I think there's a statement by somebody that she tried to get the victim out of the house to essentially attack her, and it didn't work. So the custody battle is bad.
Wait, there's more to that too, Sarah. That little thing was, let's try and get her out of the house and then throw an anvil through her windshield to kill her that way back in February.
Right, to make it look like an accident.
Let's put the list back up so you can see. I want you to be able to just look at that list as well, because on that list, Sarah, hit it hard. You bought 5 stun guns and you bought 3 burner phones. The stun guns are found at the gravesite. The burner phones are tracked to the place where they disappeared and the gravesite and the Twombly's house. How do you explain that away?
Right, and I'll let Mark do that, but the fact that she searched for these things, the fact that she searched, see, this is the client that I would refer to Mark. The fact that she searched for these things, I wasn't bothered by that at all. It's the fact that they're overt acts that match up with the searches. It's that she searched the gun shops, she searched the taser pane, and then she bought the stun guns. She searched how to get somebody out of the house. She searched, burner phones and went and bought them at Walmart. The problem is that her searches pair up with the overt acts. And so, that's not very good. The confession I'm not worried about. The custody dispute could be explained. The web searches with the purchases are bad. And then, of course, not knowing where the bodies are. We learned that in the Vallow case, similar situation. When you're covering up, it's consciousness of guilt. I'm not sure how she can explain that. If you ask her, she'll say, I didn't know. I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't know where the bodies were, except she was at the site where they were buried.
Yeah, and our source. She was at the site the day before, while her boyfriend Tad was asking the landowner, "Mind if I do some digging down there? No biggie. I'm just going to remove a tree stump." And the next day, the bodies are buried. And 12 noon, the skitter's out. But so I'm going to go to you, Mark, and I'm going to get you to just do, because I want you to do Tad Cullum, and I'm going to list out his bad facts in a minute, but just hit up that whole burner phone and stun guns and how a defense attorney is going to explain that away.
I'll do that only if you do that accent about the going and doing the digging again.
I'll do it every day, all day long. Don't test me. I lived in Texas for 5 years. I can slang with the rest of them.
So the burner phones generally, one of the things that you say is, look, what you call a burner phone, what the prosecution calls a burner phone, is a prepaid phone. Sometimes people cannot afford to get a dedicated cell phone or any other kind of credit, so they buy prepaid phones. That the prosecution always calls those burner phones. The searches are interesting because I've had cases where there were searches, but it depends on when the searches were. If the searches were prior to the going missing, those are bad facts. If the searches are during the period of time when somebody's missing, that can be explained away. The interesting thing when you have this many suspects and supposedly admitting responsibility is, what I would be looking for is who's going to cut the first deal, because they're going to want one of these 4 to roll on the other 3. That's a tried and true prosecution tactic, and that's probably what I would imagine is going to end up happening. My father used to always say, first one in the door gets the best deal.
Gets the best deal. And that's why I think she gave a confession or some kind of comment to say, look, I was there, but I didn't do it. Look at these other 3. Maybe that's what she was saying. But I'm still locked in on these burner phones that were found tracking to the disappearance site, to the grave site, found at the grave site, found at the Twombly's house, charging on Grandma Tiffany's bedside, and the stun guns. 5 of them purchased well before the disappearance and then found at the gravesite. So I just don't know how anybody. So, but you need to do the Tad Cullum list now. So let's put the list up for Tad Cullum.
Yeah, but
quick, because I only have a few minutes. Okay, I got to get to all of them.
I was just going to say, remember, the phone itself could be there. She could always say, especially if she's cooperating, yes, I'm going to take responsibility. Yes, they gave me the phones after the fact, and then they admitted it, and then she's going to say, yes, I helped them after the fact. I mean, I could see it's not that unusual in these kinds of cases to have the prosecution craft like this.
She bought them.
Mark.
Well,
yeah,
it doesn't matter if she bought them. She bought them, but that doesn't mean she took them to the scene.
It's a conspiracy to commit murder. Well, I mean, that's the same as murder, isn't it?
Right, correct. But also, Mark, the sequence,
I just suspect you'll find somebody's going to cooperate.
I agree.
Yeah,
okay, let me move on to Tad real quickly. This is Tiffany's boyfriend. Yeah. So Tad Cullum also has lots of bad facts, okay? Not maybe as many as Grandma Tiffany, but Tad's got, according to our sources, scratches on his face that are, they are arced like fingernails, and that the source said he grew out the beard to try to cover it. He told his landlord the day before the women went missing, I'm just going to do some dirt work down there, and brought in a big dirt skidder to move and dig a big hole, and then covered it all up that next day, the day that they were murdered, and then the skidder was gone, same day at noon. He had a rifle, armor, go bag when he was arrested, and he and Tiffany both had a reputation for violence. Those last two, let's not even bother hitting them. Those are easy to explain away. Those other ones, though, not so easy. What do you say, Garagos?
Scratches on the face, you're going to want to see if they swabbed him for DNA of any kind, or if on the deceased, or if there was any kind of DNA transfer. So that's going to be, if there isn't, you can explain that away. I agree with you. The last two are easily explained. What somebody calls a go bag, somebody else can call something else an overnight bag. So that doesn't bother me at all. The thing that is problematic is the dirt moving and the digging. So I don't know what his explanation is or could be for that. That's the bad fact.
Yeah, super bad fact.
And then telling the landlord how to... You're right. And then telling the landlord apparently like they're looking for him for this disappearance and how he should answer to law enforcement.
Yeah, that I can explain away too. I'm scared. I think they're going to look at me. I get that part. But I also want to say our source told us that Veronica fought ferociously in the back of that vehicle during the murder. So if that's the case, and Tad has scratches, Garagos, I'm with you. I can guarantee that during that autopsy, they just did every kind of fingernail clipping for anything that they could find related to these defendants. And if there's anything there, they're completely finished. So now, real quickly, Sarah, I got to do these faster. Cole and Cora. Oh, boy, their 16-year-old daughter basically gave away the farm. She said she overheard all the plans, that mom and stepdad said, tomorrow we won't be here when you wake up. We're going on a mission. And sure enough, they weren't. She told that daughter, CW, that they had actually, 5 of them, including a guy named Paul Grice, we diverted the car down the road to the ambush. And that things hadn't gone to plan, and that all Tiffany, Tad, Cole, Cora, and this Paul Grice fellow were all involved, and then the CW had to actually clean the truck. When they came home with 2 trucks, she was meant to clean one of them. How do you explain that away, Sarah?
Well, I think you need to you need to do a very in-depth investigation into CW, the dynamics of this family. There is obviously dysfunctional dynamics on the side of grandma and the son and the victim, but there might be dysfunction here too. Cora is her biological mother. The husband is her stepfather. Who knows? Maybe she was fabricating some of this. Maybe she learned about some of the facts during the investigation, and she's parroting some of this. I mean, this has happened in my cases. So again, the timing of when she made the statement versus when she learned certain facts matters. Her dynamic within the family matters. But I would go after her credibility. These are statements that she's making about what she was told.
Yeah. And then last but not least, this Paul Grice fella. I am mystified by God's misfit number 5. And Garagos, I'm going to get you to field this one. He is not charged, okay? At this point, he was, according to a rancher we interviewed, who's a friend of his, he was he was detained, he was questioned, and he was released. But Cora's daughter, the CW, that's the initials, said that he was involved in the planning and the meetings, and that her mom said he was part of the killing, the plan, the ambush, not necessarily the burying, but I don't understand it. I thought maybe you could explain why someone like this wasn't at least brought in on a squeeze play and charged just so that he could try and give information.
He may very well may have. If they detained him, if he gave them what they consider to be important information that basically broke the case open for the investigators' theory, I can see where he might have been released, or that maybe he's implicated others and they let him go so that he could cooperate with them. Or he's one of the ones, as I indicated before, first one in makes a deal, and he could be the guy that made the deal. But it would be highly unlikely to me that somebody who is one of the people who's involved has not already cooperated or will.
Yeah, because it's scary when you hear it. Reminder, Oklahoma's a death penalty state. The last comment, Sarah, what was that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just going to say he could have also withdrawn from the conspiracy. There's this idea that he could have been part of the planning, but then didn't participate in any of the overt acts or before the overt acts occurred. And so that's how he saved himself.
You never told me there was going to be a shooting. You just said we were going to scare them. I get it. You're right. Guys, I have to leave it there, but I feel like this is a longer conversation. I want to have you both back, and we can do an even deeper dive once we get the next information. Sarah Azari, Mark Garagos, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashleigh.
I knew they would make a great case. It's why we invite them. I do want to tell you this. We have just learned that the Celebration of Life service for Veronica Butler is now planned to be held on May 3rd in Hugoton, Kansas. That's a week from this Friday. And then we saw this. This is Veronica's online obituary. It's sweet. It's so poignant. It's sad. And boy, it's already amassed a whole lot of comments from people who are mourning, some people who it seems knew her, and others who didn't. But I do want to read a couple of these because they're really nice. Sally Ann Blackburn wrote, R.I.P. Veronica, going to miss you and your teas. Maybe they went for tea together. Tiffany Lanning wrote, praying for all of Veronica's family. And then Kay Gillespie wrote this, I never met Veronica, but I grew up in Hugoton and the First Christian Church where Jillian was the secretary. I have been following what has happened and send my sincere condolences to the very many people who are forever affected by the loss of these two dear souls. We're going to keep you posted as we do, especially with all of the information that we have been finding out. Still to come. Did somebody have it in for Noah Presgrove? Or was it a heat-of-the-moment fight that got out of hand? Or was Noah's death something else entirely? A horrible accident that could have happened to anybody? Oklahoma police have called the teenager's death suspicious, and then they say little else. For 7 months now. But now we know more than ever about how Noah was found, how brutally he'd been beaten or dragged or mauled, and those injuries, well, they just might tell us everything. Actually, they'll tell the experts everything, and the best death expert in the business is live with me next. The person or persons who killed Noah Presgrove, deliberately or otherwise, are somewhere out there in the world tonight. They're living their lives and they're keeping their terrible secret. Or they just have something horrible in their lives they don't know about. Just as they have every day and night since Labor Day 2023, which is almost 8 months now. Noah had just graduated from Comanche High School in Comanche, Oklahoma, with a taste for adventure and big plans for life in the military. As summer was winding down, he attended a Labor Day party that lasted throughout the weekend, and it would be his last party ever.
Come on. Yes, come on, Shady. Damn.
This race, I will. Yeah, I'll just beat the.
Just after that party on September 4th, Noah, age 19, was found dead less than 1 mile from that party on the side of a rural highway. Last night, Noah's family told us some graphic and never-before-heard details about the condition of Noah's body. They said the back of Noah's head was caved in and some of his teeth were missing and scattered near his body. His nose and cheeks appeared broken. His fingertips seemed to be shredded, and the only item of clothing he had on, shoes. But only one shoe was his. The other belonged to a friend. And as any true crime fan knows, dead men often tell tales from the grave. Forensic science can solve a lot of mysteries. And it's for that reason I want to welcome back to this program Joseph Scott Morgan, certified death investigator and distinguished scholar at Jacksonville State University. Joe, I'm glad you're back tonight. I feel like we just scratched the surface last night going through some of these injuries, but I want you to start sort of again with me tonight with the shoes, because in so many accident scenes, the first thing I notice is that accident victims are usually, their shoes are the first things to come off, that they're usually found without their shoes, and yet he had his shoes, one his, one belonging to someone else. What does that tell you?
Well, yeah, and again, let me preface what I'm saying by adding this little bit. It doesn't happen every single time, but yeah, it does occur, and many times the feet are planted, and the car, the vehicle, will strike an individual with obviously a very high velocity, and essentially knocking these individuals out of their shoes. It does happen. I've seen it happen. So, but here. Just, kind of ticking the boxes as we go along, Ash. He does, in fact, have shoes on his feet. However, one is not his. The story that we had last night is that he was anxious to get out of the house to go for a walk. He had his shoe, and he essentially grabbed another one of someone at this house party. However, one of the things that's very difficult to explain about him being in the road, still wearing his shoes, is that he had nothing else on, Ash. This young man was nude. Now, there was a pair of underwear that were found lying on the roadway not too far away from him, and I still have yet to be able to ascertain the status of those. And if you'll just indulge me for a moment, when an individual is struck, a pedestrian, by a motor vehicle, and they're wearing clothing, many times the clothing will get twisted. It'll get torn. You'll have road dirt, grease, grime if the car rolls over them. And many times the clothing is essentially shredded, but we don't know the status of that. Had he taken his own shorts off and tossed them aside, or is it something more sinister? Get out of the car and, oh, by the way, here are your underwear. And again, you look at that evidence at the scene, and that leads me, I think, probably to one of the biggest questions. How did he make it out there? Was he capable of ambulating that far if he's inebriated? Or could he have been transported out there in a vehicle, and any number of those vehicles that were at that house that night? And so I'm hoping that they have gone over every single vehicle at that residence with a fine-tooth comb, because I got to tell you, Ash, if he was beaten up prior to being dumped out on the road, you could have significant deposition of evidence just contained within the car alone, not to mention what might be back at that residence.
I keep coming back to the scattered teeth around the body and the clothes that are not far away. You know what? I was going to go through about 10 items with you, and I got to one. So we're going to just do it again. I'm just mark off your calendar and come back, and let's really go through all of these clues. No, but I even have more questions. What if he was roof surfing? Maybe he was being something, an 18-year-old, like, going crazy, and then I don't know. There's just so many possibilities. But let's do it again, and then let's talk about all the other things that they found with regard to the body. Joe Scott, thanks so much. Always love to have you.
Always at your disposal, Ash.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's going to be an hour next time, a full hour on that. All right, so coming up next, the latest twist in a murder case that we thought was really, resolved. Within days of a dead woman's body, parts of her actually turning up all over Milwaukee, police there made this arrest. But now comes a test that gave us some results that either cast doubt on the suspect's guilt or suggest that he's got a lot more victims out there. Is there a serial killer in Jeffrey Dahmer's old neighborhood? Or is this man the wrong guy? It's all next. Earlier this month, we brought you a grisly case from Milwaukee that didn't stay a mystery for very long, or so we thought. It began with a human leg. It was cut off at the hip. There was pink toenail polish on the toes. The leg was found in a lakefront park, and it wasn't long before other body parts started turning up in various other locations. And then police determined that they all belonged to a 19-year-old woman named Ashleigh Robinson. And even while those grim discoveries were happening, police had a suspect. It was this guy, a tall, blonde, 33-year-old bartender named Maxwell Anderson. He and Ashleigh, it turns out, had gone on a date the night before Ashleigh failed to show up for work, and hours before her clothes were found in her burned-out car. Investigators said phone records, surveillance video, forensics, all tied Maxwell Anderson to the crime, and so they charged him with it. Homicide and mutilation of a corpse. On Monday, though, he pleaded not guilty. And now comes a weird footnote in a new court filing that says preliminary DNA tests on the blood that police found in Maxwell Anderson's home do not, I repeat, do not show a match with Ashleigh Robinson. So does that undercut the accusations that Maxwell Anderson killed Ashleigh Robinson? Or does it add to the speculation that Anderson may have killed other victims we don't know about? Steve Spingola is, he's got some insights on all of this. He's a retired Milwaukee police detective and investigator on the Oxygen Channel program Cold Case. He also worked extensively on the Jeffrey Dahmer investigation, which was also in Milwaukee. It's great to have you back, Steve. Thank you. Were you surprised when these tests came back in the blood that was found in the suspect's home and it wasn't Ashleigh's blood?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. And no, not really. They haven't said whose blood it is. It could be his blood. I don't think this lends that there's any other victims here. There are witness accounts. There is physical evidence. They have him tracked from about 5:30 on April 1st, where they were eating, all the way to when he takes a bus shortly after torching Ashleigh's car on 29th and Elizabeth. There's no question he's involved and he's the suspect, and he'll be convicted of that. I have no doubt at all that he's the individual involved. That blood, it can't be explained right now. I'm sure the Milwaukee Police Department and the crime lab is trying to analyze it and look at other victims, but it hasn't been explained right now, and let's give law enforcement some time to work on that case.
Agreed, but I wonder if they're also now opening up the books on all the other missing women and wondering if maybe they can get a match there. Do you think that's also happening?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every time there's a missing and you wind up with a Dahmer, Bundy, something like that, law enforcement looks at it. There may be investigations from out of state right now. I don't know exactly how Mr. Anderson traveled around, where he worked, who he came in contact with, but rest assured, a lot of people are looking at him. And, we'll see what comes up, but he is just too disorganized of a guy. And I have said that, and I've talked to other people about it. He is impulsive. This crime is like a roadmap. It leads right back to him. I'd be extremely surprised if there's anybody else that he harmed or killed along the way here.
Okay, and then this last question. I always wonder, is there any possibility that maybe the DNA test was just wrong? We hear of all sorts of lab mix-ups and problems. Is it just possible that it is her blood and the test was just a mix-up?
I doubt it. Those are serologists. Those are people with degrees. They do this for a living. So I would certainly hope that that's not the case here. I don't believe it's the case. I think that right now what they're taking a look at is trace evidence to see if they can link it up. Right now, the ball is still in the court of the police department. They can investigate this for months up until the time the trial starts. And I still think there's going to be more evidence that links him to her. The forensic evidence in his house has to be there.
Steve Spiegel, you are a wealth of information. I'm not only going to call you again on this case, I'm going to call you on some other ones too. Given the fact you worked on Dahmer, I think you know a thing or two. Thank you so much for this tonight.
Thanks. Have a nice night, man. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you again for sure. Coming up next, I talk about, killers and then did they kill more than one? And the one that really comes to mind is the happy face killer, because I've been writing back and forth with him. I'm a pen pal at this point. And then I got this picture. He slipped into the last letter. The fifth letter he's now sent me. But I need your help. I need your help, everybody. He gave me this picture and wrote nothing about it and nothing on it. And I have no idea who that fellow is on the right. Anyway, I'm going to explain a little more in a moment.
Just $49.95 with free shipping.
Go to trynqnow.com or call 1-800-590-9558. That's 1-800-590-9558. Order now.
Okay, I need your help. This is weird. So I've been corresponding with the Happy Face Killer and several other serial killers, which you will learn about soon. But he sent me a fifth letter, Keith Jesperson did. And then it's weird. He just slipped a photo in, like an actual photo with the writing. He just threw a photo in. And this is the photo. But he didn't say a word about it. Didn't say who it was. But I assume it's a fellow inmate, given that they're both dressed the same. And the visitation rules basically say this wouldn't be an outsider. So if you know who it is, please email me, BanfieldTips@NewsNationNow.com. If you know who the guy on the right is, that's Keith Jesperson on the left. Please tell me, because, it's a bit strange and I don't have any reference on who the fellow is on the right. While we are talking about killers, I do want to tell you that in Washington State tonight and just across the border in Oregon, there are 3 crime scenes that are being processed as we speak. And they have investigators baffled, 3 families destroyed, and 3 children orphaned, plus a local police department wondering how they never saw it coming. It all starts with a man named Elias Huizar. He's actually an ex-cop, and he used to work for the Yakima Police Department. Turns out it is a good thing that Huizar is an ex-cop, because the string of dirty, filthy crimes that he was facing is longer than most felons who are locked up today. And what he did tonight tops even that. By way of background, let me get you caught up on the last few years of this ex-cop's sordid life. Huizar left his wife and 2 small kids to pursue a 15-year-old girl. This is the ex-wife, okay? 15-year-old high school girl. Of course, he met her while he was working as a school resource officer in Yakima. And when he met that 15-year-old girl that he left to start sleeping with, she was actually just 11. 11. Nevertheless, he fathered a child with that girl. And before being caught for that crime, he began a full relationship with her, moving her into his house and the baby they had together. And if that weren't bad enough, Huizar was also accused of raping that 16-year-old friend, or the friend of the 15-year-old. So a 16-year-old friend of this teenage girlfriend and mother of his child. The girl was apparently drunk and passed out while a guest at his home. Upon hearing of all this behavior, naturally, his ex-wife, who bears a remarkable resemblance actually to Kate Middleton, she was in the process of filing for revised custody and had an order of protection against him. There's that picture I keep thinking is Kate Middleton. But she had an order of protection against him. Yesterday was a huge day, a court hearing on the 2 child rape accusations against this ex-cop, one for the teen mother of his child and the other for her 16-year-old friend. But instead of showing up for the scheduled hearing, police say that he showed up at his ex-wife's place of work, which is an elementary school in West Richland, Washington. And that's where he opened fire on his ex-wife, shooting her 8 times and killing her right there at this elementary school, sending all those kids into a frantic lockdown. And if that wasn't enough, he crossed town to the home that he shared with this now 17-year-old teenage girlfriend and mother of their 1-year-old boy, and he killed her too. before grabbing that little infant boy and going on the run. Police issued an Amber Alert. Manhunt was on. And just a few hours ago, an officer spotted Huizar's vehicle near Eugene, Oregon, and began a chase. But before they could stop him and pull that ex-cop into custody, he just decided to take the easy way out and shoot himself in the head with the baby still in the car. The state police were able to rescue that little boy, and thank God the child is okay tonight. But the authorities just announced that the killer rapist died. And still the question remains, how was that child rapist, kidnapper, double murderer even able to carry out a near 2-year heinous crime spree? Again, an ex-cop who police would only say left his job after, quote, receiving discipline. As I mentioned, the crime scenes are still being processed as we speak. It's likely to be a while before anyone gets answers, least of which the 2 sets of children he leaves completely orphaned tonight. Coming up, a terrified woman is kidnapped off a stranger's porch and may well have stayed kidnapped and terrified if the crime hadn't happened, say, maybe a decade ago. But it happened on Sunday in full view of a new crime-fighting tool, indispensable crime-fighting tool, a doorbell cam. Going to play that up loud for you, full video plus an update on where those two are now. Next. Let me just say up front, I don't get kickbacks from the makers of doorbell cams. No financial stake of any kind in a doorbell cam, but I love doorbell cams because every day they stop crime and they catch criminals and they help convict in court. And if you don't believe me, I want you to watch this. Front porch in Hillsboro, Oregon, Sunday night. A woman unknown to the homeowner rings the bell, and before anyone can answer, a man runs up behind her, snatches her up, and hauls her away, all while she screams for her life. Take a look.
Please help me! Please help me!
You can just hear stifled mumbling and a car door slamming, and then the car drives off. There it goes, off on the left. Whole thing took less than 30 seconds. And naturally, the homeowner called the police, who asked for the video, and then asked for the public to help ID both of the people in this video, the victim and the perp. And it worked. Within 24 hours, a suspect was caught and a kidnapping charge was filed. Right now, the police are not releasing their names, but they do say, and I quote, "This was not a random attack." Holy Dinah. Okay, so tomorrow on the show, we have a huge development in last summer, if you remember, a UFO sighting in Vegas. It happened at the end of April a year ago. We saw the flash on the police body cam. We heard the reports of what the family saw in the backyard. Remember this? And that family is now sitting down to talk for the first time. Again, this is tomorrow night. They have new information about not only the sightings, they've got better descriptions, but they also have information about paranormal activity that's now happening inside their house. And we have experts who are trying to debunk the video, having a really tough time with it. All of that tomorrow, right here, 10 p.m. We'll see you then. As always, Cuomo's next.
Hey everybody, I'm Brian Entin filling in for Chris Cuomo tonight. It was day 2 at Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial. His friend and former publisher of the National Enquirer was back on the stand for the prosecution. And could what he called a secret arrangement with the Trump